Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's tourism lesson. My name is Evans Mabonya. This lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Saibono Discovery Center. For any queries after the lessons, you can contact us on WhatsApp on this number 079 578 2908. Let me quickly repeat the number where you can access us on WhatsApp. It's 079 578 2908. Grade 12 learners, our lesson for today comes from the knowledge area, foreign market share. The topic is domestic, regional, and international tourism. The subtopic for discussion today is foreign market share. Now, let's get into the move, grade 12 learners. Where exactly will this lesson be assessed? This topic, foreign market share, you'll come across it on the final examination paper in section E, question 9, and also in section A, that is your short questions. That's where this topic will be assessed. It will also be assessed during the year in controlled tests, the skills assessment task, the PET, the preliminary examination, and of course the final examination. So every little assessment that you'll be doing this year, you are likely to be asked questions on foreign market share. And I need to emphasize it's on your section E, question 9, and you'll also get questions asked in section A, question 1, that is your short questions. Here are your lesson objectives, grade 12s, meaning that these are the things, or these are the aspects of the lesson that you need to know and understand. So you need to achieve the following by the end of this discussion. Number 1, the concept market share, foreign market share, statistics regarding inbound and international tourism. Of course, I'm going to elaborate on these concepts. Interpretation of statistics with reference to the following: foreign arrival to South Africa by land and air travel markets, and how the arrival statistics can determine the foreign market share. You'll also have to understand which of the provinces are most visited. So the most visited provinces in South Africa, of the 9, which ones take a bigger share? You also need to understand or have knowledge of the concept length of stay in each province. And one other thing that you need to internalize is the average expenditure per tourist and activities undertaken whilst in South Africa. Those are your lesson objectives, grade 12s. Now let us look into the key concepts that you'll have to master after this lesson. In the first bullet, we have foreign market. So we're going to explain what we actually mean by foreign market. Secondly, we're also going to explain or elucidate what we mean by foreign market share. We're also going to look into the concept of inbound tourists. We're going to look and explore the concept of arrival statistics, and we'll further explore on foreign arrivals in South Africa, as well as how can arrival statistics determine foreign market share. These are your key concepts. Make no mistake that you know these concepts by heart, and they will form the basis of your study of the topic and the basis for our discussion of the topic this afternoon. Foreign market. What are we referring to by this concept, foreign market? It refers basically to the total number of international tourists arriving from another country. The total number, not of only tourists, but it has to be international tourists, that is, tourists coming from outside our own country of residence. So international tourist refers to tourists coming from other countries visiting South Africa. If I have to be specific in the example. So you'll have a tourist coming from China visiting Johannesburg, which is in South Africa. That type of tourist is categorized, is classified as an international tourist because he is not a tourist from our own country. So the total number of such tourists coming from other countries visiting to South Africa are our foreign market. Because of the fact that they come from foreign countries and they visit here, they live foreign currency. They spend on transport, they spend on accommodation, they spend on food and beverages, they spend on activities that they want to participate in. So they form the basis of our foreign market. So the fact that we derive profit from outside world, from countries of not of our own. So those countries are referred to as foreign markets. So to us, people from Botswana are our foreign market. People from Zambia are our foreign market. People from Nigeria are our foreign market because they are not residents of this country, and as they visit here, they leave something. So they are our foreign market. I think I have explained fully the concept foreign market, which we said it refers to the total number of international tourists arriving from another country. In so saying, you shall have defined the concept fully. Now, South Africa has a foreign market share, which is represented on this graph, on this pie graph. As you can see, South Africa has a total of 9.3 million that it derives from foreign market. So South Africa's foreign market share is 9.3 million people. So meaning that people from international communities visiting South Africa in a specific year amounts to 93 million. So we get this total number of people on average visiting our country. So this is our foreign market share, and we are only focusing on South Africa because the foreign market share that we refer to here is that which we get from other countries. So these are shares for other countries, and we are not interested in what our focus here is the foreign market share for South Africa. Let's move on. We have defined the concept foreign market, and we have clearly defined the stake which South Africa has on the foreign market. The next concept is foreign market share, now explained in detail. It refers to the total number of international tourists arriving in South Africa. As we further explain the foreign market share, we need to know the background behind this market share. And that background for our South Africa's market share, we get information that is being collected by the Department of Home Affairs. So it collects the information, and also another government agency responsible in South Africa for collecting statistics or information about international arrival is Statistics South Africa. Then the Home Affairs will collect that information from Statistics South Africa, use this information, studies it or analyze it, and draw up a report of their findings. And that report is by and large represented by figures, by numbers. So the Department of Home Affairs will liaise or will collect information from Statistics South Africa, scrutinize the information, study this information, and present the information in the form of a report. And that kind of report is dominated by number of people arriving. Hence, most of our focus here would be stats, will be statistics, figures, numbers of people arriving into the country. It is therefore important to know where our tourists come from. So we should know exactly of the total number of people who received, which countries they arrive from in big numbers, and which countries only give us fewer tourists in a year. So that information is important for us because we need to create relation. We need to expand also the market share for South Africa. We'll understand it better when we get the benefit of maintaining these relations with foreign communities. The foreign market share will show the number of tourists you had in your country and how much they spent. I've alluded to the numbers, how much they spent and how long they stay and how many of them have visited our country. So such information is very crucial for us to determine South Africa's market share in the global community. Foreign market share refers to a percentage of foreign tourists South Africa gets in comparison with the rest of the world. So we do not study this statistic in isolation. Rather, we need to compare and position ourselves as South Africa in relation to other countries of the world. So the concept of foreign market share is important for us as tourism learners because we want to understand the contribution of tourism into the economy of South Africa, how it contributes to the economic growth of South Africa. So it is important for us to study by heart these statistics. One other concept that we need to clearly define is that of inbound tourist. Inbound from your grade 10 refers to incoming tourist. Tourists that are coming into our country, tourists from other countries that visit our country are referred to as inbound tourists. Remember in grade 10, you have studied this. There were two types of tourism. You had inbound tourism and outbound tourism. So with outbound, we are referring to people who leave South Africa to visit other countries. People that leave South Africa to explore other countries of the world are referred to as outbound tourists, and this is the opposite. So as we study foreign market share, this becomes an important concept for us to understand that the focus here is not tourists in and around the country, but tourists that we get from other countries of the world. And such tourists are referred to as inbound tourists. So in defining inbound tourists, one would say these are incoming tourists. For example, the Australian cricket team coming to participate in a cricket tournament at the Wanderers Stadium in Johannesburg. So this team automatically becomes an inbound tourist. So they are categorized as inbound tourists. So this picture just it's a demonstration of an airplane that they are not coming from South Africa. They are coming from outside world and they are landing into one of the airports in the country. Arrival statistics, it's one other concept that we need to know and understand. So arrival statistics suggest or indicate the number of international foreign tourists that arrive in South Africa, a number of international or foreign tourists that will arrive in South Africa gives us the statistics, gives us the numbers, the figures, the count of people who visited the country. So this is what explains arrival statistics. These statistics are then composed, categorized, and studied for a specific time. these numbers of international arrivals is collected, it is composed, it is separated according to countries from which they arise from. It is categorized according to the type of tourists that visited the country. It is also categorized in terms to the length of stay into the country, and it is studied for a particular period of time. Why a particular period of time? Why a specific period of time? In order for the authorities to do relevant comparison. So they will be able to say, to tell you that we have received more international arrivals in the year 2019, and in the year 2020 we have received less foreign arrival because we had COVID-19. So the information is categorized for a particular period of time, with the example that I've just cited, that there were more tourists in 2019 than in 2020 because of the different situation that prevailed in the country. We were affected by COVID-19 in 2020, whereas in 2019, everything was normal and there was no scare for travelers to contract any pandemic such as the COVID-19. So statistics is collated, categorized in terms or with regard to a specific time. Now here are our arrival statistics. Is just a comparison. So 2 years have been juxtaposed here. On top, we have 2020, and below we have 2019. So these are tourists coming from Americas. Americas here, we are referring to both North and South America. So the statistics indicate that in 2019, we have received 6.3 or negative 6.3% in 2019, whereas in 2020, it was minus 17%. As you can see here, we did not have so many tourist arrivals in 2020 because of the pandemic, as opposed to 2019. And if we look at the African continent, in 2020, you have a loss of 12%, whereas in 2019, we have just a mere minus 7.4%. So here it's another comparison looking at Europe. You have plus 19 in 2020, that is the loss, and it was minus 63 in 2019. Asia, here are the comparison statistics, where we have minus 65% as opposed to minus 94% in 2019. As you can see, the figures reflect that we received more tourists in 2019 as opposed to 2020. And this is the year of release of the statistics, that is in 2021, comparing 2019 and 2020. Grade 12 learners, you should always analyze, look at the information that you are given, mostly in numbers. Please try to make sense of that and try to always keep yourself abreast with the information or developments that are happening in our country, which will either attract tourists or will scare away tourists. Those point of departures in understanding the statistics and why there is a difference, why there is a variance in arrival of tourists into the country. So arrival statistics further compared here. As you can see, this one is the reflection of tourist arrivals from the Middle East, still comparing the 2 years, but this time around it compares the 2021 and the 2022 arrival statistics. So in 2021, we had the following arrivals from the Middle East. We had 507.6% up. So we had an increase of around 507.6%. So we had quite a massive increase in 2021, because in 2021 things began to become better. The disease was, or the pandemic was contained. So we had an improvement in number of visitors as compared to 2020, where we had only 16,393 total number of visitors, and we have this significant increase of 507 in the following year, because comparing the 2 years, 2021 was characterized by lockdowns, and whereas in 2021 things were a bit relaxed. We did not have so much lockdowns. The vaccine was discovered and dispatched to most parts of the world, including our own country. So let's look at another comparison where we look at the Americas in terms of arrival statistics in the 2 years, of which the left will represent the year 2021, and where in 2020, sorry, and we have an increase of up to 748%. So in the year before, we had 136,276. So these are just figures that compare between specific period of times, that is 2020 to 2021, as well as 2021 to 2022. Those are just a comparison of these two seasons. That is the year 2020 leading to 2021, and the year 2021 leading to 2022. So you can see that in the year 2021 to 2022, there was a significant rise in the number of foreign arrivals because of the scenario that I've just indicated regarding COVID-19. As we move on, grade 12 learners, here is another presentation of statistics. Earlier, it was compared by different regions of the world, where you had from the Middle East, you had from Asia, you had from Europe, you had from the Americas. But here now, the information is represented on a table. The statistics is given on a table for you to interpret. So as tourism learners, you need to know how to read this information vis-a-vis the other aspects that are given on the table. So let us look, for instance, in 2014. In 2014, we have received, in terms of arrival, over 20 million, where you had 20,403,641 arrivals. And in departures, we had, or that is people living out of this country, it was 19,125,502. And in transit, you had 781,520, and this gives us a total of 40,310. So in transit refers to those who are in or who were counted in different modes of transport. These are your tourists in transit, and these are the departures experienced in 2014, and these are arrivals. So now, if you look in this year, the arrival were too high. We had also high arrivals. We have high arrivals up to 2018, 2019, high arrival, and now look at 2020. The arrival statistics were now, or have dropped significantly, from 21 million to a region of 6 million. So this is a drop by 14 million in terms of arrival, and we can clearly account for this drop because of COVID-19. So it was rife in the 2020s. It was more serious in 2021. And as you can see, in 2022, there is that rise. So in 2020, we had a drop up to 6 million, and we had another drop in 2021. The figures or the stats dropped to around 4 million. And in 2022, we see that increase from 4 million by around 7 million to give us 11,540. So the trend, as you look on departures, is more or less similar. We had an increase over these years up to 2019, and as you can see, there is a drop in departures because of restrictions that were implemented. You had lockdown, so the number of people departing from our country to other countries had to drop, and it further dropped in 2021, and here we see a sudden rise in 2022. So this trend cuts across all these criteria given on this table. You can see that the trend is the same. There is an increase over the past 5 years, and in the next 4 years, you have just a drastic drop and a rise again in 2022. So this explains a lot for you. If you see them, you just see numbers, but there's a lot of stories that you can derive from the table that you have been provided with. Grade 12 learners, if we move further, here is another presentation, and it compares foreign arrivals from different regions of the world, and it is on monthly basis. Remember, the other one was per specific year or per specific given year, but now here it is the 2 months in different years, January 2022 compared to January 2021. And in this regard, from Europe, in January 2022, you had 47,528, whereas in January of 2021, you had 8,682. So what creates this difference in terms of foreign arrival in these 2 months is that in 2021, we were affected by COVID. There was lockdown. People could not travel as they want because of the restrictions that were implemented by countries to prevent the spread of the pandemic, to prevent the spread of COVID-19. So that's why in 2021, we have such less figures, such less tourists arriving into the country. But in general, in January of 2022, we see this massive increase in foreign arrivals because COVID has been contained by most of the countries. There was adequate supply of the vaccine. Most of the people had taken a vaccine, so the effects or the impact of the pandemic was minimized and things began to be normal again. So as you can see on the statistics in 2022, we have an increase in all these respects. So from North America, we had 2,152 in 2021 as opposed to 8,000. Can you see the increase of 8,939 in January of 2022? The same applies here. Central and South America, we have received only 401 in 2021, and in 2022, the number increased to 1,065. As we look into Australasia, you had in 2021 only 223, and that has increased by almost 1,400 in the following year, in January of the following year. So in January of 2021, as we look into the Middle East, we had 359, and we see an increase in 2022 to 823. It was less at 1,870 for Asia, and we have an increase of by 3,000 almost in 2022 January. We have 13,687 in total for 2021, and as opposed to 64,714 of 2022. And if we look into Africa, in 2021 we have received 125,225, and the number has increased to 312,444 in 2022, and the unspecified tourists, which we could not establish where they're coming from, we had received 222, and in 2022 we had 497. In January of 2021, the grand total, the overall total, we have received 139,934 as opposed to 377,651 in 2022. And the percentage in difference is indicated here, where you have percent difference of it's 447 this side, and this side is the 8.846. So you can clearly see that in 2021 there was a total decline in the number of tourists visit the country, statistically, number wise and percentage wise. Grade 12 learners, we are going to proceed with our discussion. I'm just illustrating the number of ways in which data, in which statistics can be presented. We first started with a pie graph where information can be presented to represent market share. We have also demonstrated on a table how information can be presented. Such information, you are required to present it verbally to show your understanding of this information as portrayed in this graph, as depicted from these various sets which our data is presented. Here our information is articulated in a graph. As you can see, the orange here refers to foreign arrival in terms of the type of tourist. So you'd have a holiday tourist, that is the purpose of their visit. So the orange in terms of purpose indicates the holiday tourist, and the gray, this one, as you can see here, represents tourists who are visiting the country on study purposes, and the yellow represents on medical, and the blue indicates those who came to do their business with our country. As you can see here, the most dominant aspect of our graph is that most of the people visit South Africa for holidays. As you can see here from this type of tourist, the holidays tourist is dominant across all the legs in the graph. So this particularly represents the year 2022. So by visit in 2022, over 90% of travelers into our country were just holiday tourists. And let's compare these holiday tourists with the rest of other tourists. And let's zoom into the first one. Tourists that came for medical reasons were only 4,630, which represent 0.1%. The yellow is not clear enough for you, but if you look through the eye of the needle, you can see that there is a yellowish portion on top of the graph that is not clear enough, but we can still attribute it to a percentage wise, and it represents 0.1. And then on the same bar, if we look into those who visited South Africa for study purpose, also there is a slight gray color on top, which is not clear enough, and it's only 0.7%, and in numbers is 40,687 that visited this country for study purpose. And for holidays, as you can see, you have 5,430,412, which represent 95.3, and those who came on business, we have received 222,368, and it represents 3.9%. And the same applies with the rest of the bars that you can see here, that our orange, which represent the holiday tourists, is dominating across. So this is just but one example of how data would be presented to you to interpret. Let's also look at another presentation on a graph. As you can see, this graph is dissimilar. It's not the same as the one that we looked into. And here we are looking at the graph that compares the number of tourists from leading overseas countries in 2022 compared to 2021. Remember, 2021, here COVID-19 was right, and obviously we would expect less tourists. And things were better in 2022, then you'll experience more tourists. Right, let's look at it. And the blue represents 2021. So 2021 is represented by blue, the blue color on the graph, and 2022 is represented by orange. So as you can see, for the 2 years, in 2021, we have from this one, from the first bar, from the UK, we have just under 50,000 visitors. As you can see, this is the number of tourists. So in 2021, it was just under 50,000. And in 2022, which is represented by orange, it was over 250. So we can say it was around 280,000. As at the roof, we have 300,000. So from UK, we have received almost 300,000 visitors as compared to 50,000 that we have experienced in 2021. So the trend as we follow, in USA, as you can see, in 2021, which is represented by blue, we have received just between 50 and 100, which is in the region of 70. As you can see, the blue cuts across here. We had something like 70, 80,000 visitors. But in 2022, we have received, instead of 82,000, we have received 262,000. The number has almost tripled. So the same applies to Germany, where in 2021 we have received only 44,398. As you can see, it's just under 50,000 as represented on the graph. And in 2022, we had 173,000. As you can see here, it's just under 200 on the graph. The Netherlands, we have received 21,757 in 2021, and this number almost we times by 4 in the following year. We had close to 100,000, which is 90,289. From France, we have received 19,761, as opposed to 76,077 in 2022. From India, we have received 17,000 in 2021, as opposed to 55,000. So in all these scenarios given, you would see that there was always an increase. That is the trend. That is the trend, the general trend of this graph, to show you that in 2022, we are talking of an increase, whereas in 2021, it's a drop. Or you can simply, in simpler terms, say we had less tourists in 2021 and more tourists in 2022. So that is what the graph is telling you. And this information is supported by statistics. It's not only a graph, you are given also the arrival statistics. Here is another presentation. This is a line graph, or you may say a linear graph. And as you can see, the blue lines represents arrival statistics from overseas, and this one's from SADC, the orange one, and the gray one represents from other countries. So the graph clearly demonstrates the percentage distribution of tourists by region residents month of arrival in 2022. So this is an integrated graph, has a lot of information. These are the hints that you should follow. That is the region of residence. We have 3, that is overseas, SADC, and other regions. Month of the year, all the 12 months from January to December are indicated here, as you can see. And the percentage which is outlined on the side. So if you look at this graph, we have 3 categories that we are comparing here, and we want to see when did we have an increase from a certain region in a particular month of the year. I've indicated the months here. So let us look, for instance, in January. In January, as we look from overseas, visitors from overseas in January of 2022, as you can see, they are represented by the blue. They are just under 5.0. So they are in the regions of 4.8, 4.9. That is the percentage that we receive from overseas arrivals. So from the SADC countries, which is represented by orange, so most of the tourists were coming from the orange, which is the SADC countries, and it was just under 10. So it was at the region of 7 or 8%. So that is 7.4 from the SADC countries. And from other countries, as you can see, other countries is in between the blue and the orange, and it's at 5.9. So this comparison is happening from month to month. As you can see, with orange, from the month of January, moving forward to February, you see that drop, and you see that rise from overseas people, and you see from also a sharp rise from overseas countries. So if we move on to March, you can see that there is also now an increase from the orange, which represents our SADC, and there is a further increase on the 2. So every market from overseas, SADC, and other African countries, we see an increase. And as we move on to April, a peak is reached, and now begins another drop in May. As you can see, all of them are dropping, but you can explain them individually looking at these statistics. That, as you can see, in May, for instance, overseas we had 6.4, and we can see that drop in June, where you have 6.0. So everyone has dropped here, and in July they begin to peak, and so the line is not stable, and it depends on the seasons of the year. So this is how the other way to present this type of information. And as we move further, let us now assess the two foreign markets. So South Africa can either be accessed by land or by air, or let's say predominantly South Africa can be accessed by land or by air. So here we are referring to tourists who enter South Africa by land, and by air markets we are referring tourists who enter the country or South Africa by air or using this mode of transport, that is the airline, or using this mode of transport, the motor vehicle. And so they are referred to as our land markets, and this is our air markets. So our foreign markets can be categorized also into two, that is your land market and your air markets, which I have clearly defined, and as they are portrayed in these two pictures. So let's look at the African land market. We refer to countries where at least 60% of arrivals from the country arrive by land. That is, people from countries or neighboring countries such as Lesotho, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Swaziland, and Botswana. So they are not far away from us. They are closer to the South African boundaries, and it's easy for them to enter our country using the land. And our African air markets are those countries which are far away from our country, and we are referring to North African countries such as Nigeria, Angola, Tanzania. They are far. It will take long to reach South Africa if they opt to get into the country using the land. So the most convenient mode of transport is the use of air transport. So they are our African air market by preference. How can arrival statistics determine foreign market share? The number of international tourist arrivals is directly related to the percentage share of the global market. So this statement clearly indicates that the number of international tourist arrival correlates with the percentage share. By counting the number of people entering our country, we will determine the percentage of our market share. So if we say 5,000 people come from Botswana, then we will be able to determine our market share in Botswana if we compare ourselves with other countries of the world. If there are more tourist arrival, the more the tourists spend and the bigger the country market share of the tourism market is. So the size of the market is dependent on the number of tourist arrival, which determines how much that country spend in terms of tourists in our country. Most visited provinces in South Africa. As we further explore this topic, Gauteng remains the most visited with 33.9%, and it's also KwaZulu-Natal have 16.1%. Right, now let's look at particularly on this graph. As you can see, you have Gauteng having a stake of 33.9%, and it is followed by KwaZulu-Natal with 16.1%, and the third one is the Western Cape at 14.0%, and from the Western Cape you would have the Eastern Cape with 7.6%, followed by Mpumalanga at 7.1%, and followed by Limpopo at 7%. And after Limpopo, you would have Northwest, Free State, and the Northern Cape being the last one. So these are the most visited provinces in the country in that order. And as they are ranked here, you can see Gauteng province, Q2, April to June 2023. Gauteng is still leading the pack, followed by Western Cape, Mpumalanga, Limpopo. So these are just different ways of presenting the information, and they are ranked according to these statistics. Remember, we said the Department of Home Affairs collected the stats from Statistics South Africa, compose it, analyze it, and this is another way of analyzing the the statistics that has been collected. The length of stay, it's one of the concepts that we need to clearly understand it as we look into this topic. The length of stay refers to, or the length of stay actually measures the average number of nights a tourist spent in each province. So it refers to the number of nights or the number of sleepovers you make in a particular province, and that is referred to as the length of stay. Tourists coming into the country spend spend money on various things like food, accommodation, transport, activities, and attractions. If more foreign tourists spend money in South Africa, the better it is for the country's economy. So the more they spend, so it improves the economy of the country. The length of stay in each province. So as you can see, December from SADC countries, which is represented by red, and other African countries by yellow, and overseas tourists by this green color. So grade 12 learners, if you can see here, in December, most of the countries or most of the visitors, as you look into the length of stay, they stay more or less 5 days. So if you can look in December, from the SADC countries, the average was at least 3 days. And for other African countries, you have 5, and for overseas tourists, because of the distance, they cannot stay for this limited period of time. They have to at least stay longer, and at least 5 days on average should be fine. So in these 3 months, October, November, December, as you can see, they are peaking high at 5 days because this is basically a holiday season. Most of the people prepare visiting places during this time of the year. That's why we have a high number of tourists staying for longer period of time in our country. And that period of stay is referred to as length of stay. So if we look at the September months, the length of stay, it's at 4 because it's spring, and the temperatures are warm from that time. But if you look here from all categories, you can see that the winter months, we are not getting so much length of stay from these countries because of the kind of weather experience. It is winter into the country in South Africa, and people will stay for fewer days because it is naturally not the season where we receive adequate or enough visitors in the country. The number of total bed nights spent in South Africa Also, it's another version of the length of stay by counting into the number of beds that are occupied, and all these categories are represented here. And as you can see, the air and land markets, the total beds in 2023 from the orange, as you can see, is just less than 100,000 in both cases. But we have seen more length of stay in 2022 as opposed to 2023 from the air markets, and from the land markets, we had more in 2023 as opposed to 2022. The average spending per tourist in South Africa in 2022 and 2023, as you can see, this is the amount or in rands which are spent for land markets. As you can see here, which is represented by blue, the average spend was around 8,000, whereas for other markets, for land markets, which is represented by the orange, as you can see here, the orange is greater than the blue. That is, in 2022, we had received less as opposed to 2023 with regard to Africa air markets. From Americas, this is in 2022, we have received less as opposed to 2023, where the orange is high. And from Asia, that's where we have received the average spend, that is 18,000 per capita or per person during the 2023 year. Average spending per tourist in South Africa in 2022 and 2023, most people who travel and spend money in South Africa in 2022 and 2023 did so via land and other African countries. Tourists who came via air did not spend a lot of money in South Africa. European average per tourist spend was higher than that of a tourist who came from America, Asia, and Australia. Tourists from America, Asia, and Australia did not spend a lot of money. Foreign arrival to South Africa by purpose, that is, what are they coming to do into this country? This is a comparison between 2022, between the two types of tourists, the holiday tourist and the business tourist. And a pie graph has been used. So it's a comparison from different countries, as you might be aware. Foreign arrival to South Africa by purpose, from the pie chart, you can deduce that South Africa experienced more holiday tourists than business tourists in 2022. This is a clear indication that South Africa is an amazing tourist destination for leisure. So we offer more leisure activities than any other. Hence, we attract a lot of holiday tourists as opposed to other type of tourists. Tips for your studying of graphs. You should clearly understand that this line, this vertical line, is referred to as the y-axis, and the horizontal one is referred to as the x-axis. And the graph will have a heading somewhere here, and here you can read any other information, for example, length of stay, and here they can put the number of months. So different information is juxtaposed between the horizontal and the vertical line. So it's for you to interpret. So an example here, this side will be length of stay, and at the bottom you'll have the number of months. As you can see here, you have the heading. Can you see on the x-axis there is percentages indicated, and on the y-axis you'd have the name of countries that are compared. So, grade 12 learners, I want us to take a break of 5 minutes, and when we come back, we'll try more activities based on this topic for discussion. Can we take a 5 minutes break, and when we bounce back, we'll look into how this topic is being assessed. Welcome back, grade 12 learners. Remember, if you have any queries, please take this WhatsApp number and drop your questions. They will be attended to. The number is 079 578 2908. WhatsApp on this number 079 578 2908. Now let's move on and look at activity number 1. You are provided with a graph here, domestic visitors to the Kruger National Park percentage. Let's look into the statement. Visitor numbers to the Kruger National Park have not recovered to pre-COVID level yet. In the 2022/2023 peak season, the park received only 93% of the visitors compared to 2019. So here the focus of the graph is domestic visitors, people from around the country and who visited the Kruger National Park. So 3 provinces have been compared in terms of number of people that go to the Kruger National Park during peak season. Remember, the statement says visitors numbers to the Kruger National Park have not recovered to pre-COVID level yet. So pre-COVID here suggests before COVID-19. So the word pre or the prefix pre suggests before. So before the COVID levels. So the numbers are still suffering. They are nothing compared to the period before 2020. That was the pre-COVID years. So we have only 93% that has been received compared to 2019. So the contribution by Gauteng is 31%, by Mpumalanga is 30.4%, and we have 22.3% from Limpopo. So this is what the Kruger National Park is currently receiving. Now, here are the questions for your activity. We have seen the graph and we have seen the distribution of travelers from Gauteng, Mpumalanga, and Limpopo. 9.21. The 9.21 gives you a guidance that, or the 9 that is ahead gives you a guidance that this is your question number, which is question 9. So it will start with the question number and the rest of the sub numbers will follow. It says, identify from graph A the core market with the lowest visitor number. 9.22, refer to graph B, discuss one reason why both Mpumalanga and Limpopo are considered 2 of the top 3 provinces for domestic visitors to the Kruger National Park. And 9.23, refer to information C, give one reason why the recorded visitor number are compared to 2019 season and not to 2020 and 2021 seasons. Here are the responses. The first one, 9.21, identify from graph A the core market with the lowest visitors number. So you'd have United States, that is USA, or United States of America. And 9.22, it says, refer to graph B, discuss one reason why both Mpumalanga and Limpopo are considered two of the top 3 provinces for tourism visitors to the Kruger National Park. And for 2 marks, here are the reasons. Remember, the question wants 1 for 2 marks. The first one, the Kruger National Park is located within the borders of Mpumalanga and Limpopo. So the Kruger National Park is found in Limpopo and Mpumalanga. That's why they are considered 2 of the top 3, because they are home to the Kruger National Park. Another reason, it is in close proximity to the park. So both the provinces are in close proximity, are near the park. The third reason, it is the main attraction for both, or in both provinces. And lastly, people can enter Kruger National Park from one province and leave the park through the other province. So it means you can either enter the Kruger National Park using the gates on the Mpumalanga side and exit into the gates that are found in the Limpopo side, and vice versa. So meaning you can enter from Limpopo and exit from Mpumalanga. 9.3, the question said, refer to information in C, give one reason why the recorded visitor number are compared to 2019 season and not to 2020 and 2021 season. It is more realistic to compare the number from 2018 to 2019, as these years reflect pre-COVID-19 visitor numbers. So the 2 years, 2018 and 2019, we did not have COVID. So it is realistic to compare the performance of a particular tourist attraction using those years, because there was no disturbance at all. So there was no COVID. So the years are comparable because there were no issues that affect the attraction. The visitor number for the 2020 and 2021 season were not realistic because of COVID-19 pandemic. So it was important to compare the number of visitors to the pre-COVID season, which was 2018 and 2019, as opposed to 2020 and 2022. That is the reason for 2 marks, and one reason was adequate enough for answering the question. Activity 2, you are presented with a graph. Source markets arrival, top 20 source markets arrival are being compared here by the graph. As you can see, these are the 20 countries on the y-axis, and the figures are on the side. It says, identify South Africa's biggest source market. As you can see, Zimbabwe leads the pack and answers question 1. Suggest the reason for this phenomenon. Job opportunities available for them in South Africa. So people from Zimbabwe will flock into South Africa to look for opportunities, to look for job opportunities. The country offer more opportunities than their own countries. So list in descending order the top 3 source markets outside Africa. Outside Africa, top three source markets. It would be Zimbabwe, Lesotho, and Mozambique. So here are your top three in that order, as indicated from the graph. And this puts us to an end of this activity on foreign market share. I think you'd have ample time to revisit some of the basic concepts that shape this topic. Concepts like foreign markets, inbound tourist, foreign market share, and different graphs that we've dealt with this afternoon. So for the next topic for discussion, which would not necessarily come on the 24th of April. The 24th of April is today. There is an error here. I'm going to correct it. So our next lesson, which is on marketing, will be brought to you from the 24th. I think it will be on a week around on the 9th, if I'm not mistaken. On the 8th of May. On the 8th of May, we'll have another presentation, and the topic for discussion will be marketing South Africa as a destination of choice. I really would want to apologize for the mistranscription of the date. So our next lesson will be offered to you on the 8th of May 2025, and from 2:30 to 4 o'clock, and we'll be focusing on marketing South Africa as a destination of choice. With that said, I would like to thank you for paying audience to this lesson. Join us again on the 8th of December, on the 8th of April, on the 8th of May 2025. So it is the 8th of May 2025 where we'll be doing marketing South Africa. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for attending. Please revisit whatever we've discussed and make sure you internalize all the concept, and you try to practice the skills of interpreting every information that you see on the graph. Thank you so much. Have a blessed afternoon.